everyone. This is Mickey Moore. Welcome to another episode of Run.Life.Today, where we bring you authentic and inspiring conversations with folks who have seen to learn the art of integrating work and life to some successful degree. Really running life more than life running them. Super excited to have Shannon Colavecchio with us today. Hello, Shannon.
Hello, happy to be here.
Thank you. And for our audience, anytime you want to learn more about Run.Life.Today, visit our website, Run.Life.Today.org. Watch us, like us, follow us, subscribe, enjoy all of our episodes. But let's get right into it because we all live busy lives. And I just first got to say, Shannon, it's Football Friday. Thank you for wearing the garnet. And I got the garnet in gold as well. So yeah,
well, my earrings are garnet, or gold rather. So I'm really trying to represent. It's for Bobby. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Anything for Bobby Bowden. And and again, when I invited you to be on the show, I thought about what was the last time I saw you, and it was summer camp out at FCA, right? Everybody's dropping the kids off and doing all the camps. Did you enjoy did your kids enjoy the FCA camp?
Oh yeah, so that was the week that Colton, my oldest, was actually at Centrikid, which is like a sleepaway camp through the church youth group. So Caden got to do FCA himself, my younger one. And so he thought, number one, it was so cool that he was the only one that got to go to that camp. And he loved it. I mean, every day he would come home and just talk about what he had learned that day. And of course, he came home tired, which is also, as you know, a good thing. But I loved that camp. It was fantastic.
Yeah, Shane enjoyed it. He liked the Foursquare, but also he liked the gospel in the morning. He would tell me each day what they went over. So I'm looking forward to doing FCA again.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so Shannon, I know you. I've researched, stalked everything about you, but of course, our audience, they maybe would appreciate a little bit of background. So, how I like to start these conversations is to, allow you to share, because we're all curious, a little bit about your background, right? So, where you're from, your growing up years, kind of bring us up to, adulthood, if you will, with your travels there. So, tell us about your background, Shannon, please.
Okay, so I was actually born in West Palm Beach. I'm from South Florida. My mom was a senior in high school. So back then in the late 70s, they would hide her away in a corner of campus because nobody wanted to see that, right? And so she had me, and then I was actually adopted by my adopted dad as a baby. And I grew up in West Palm Beach. Both my parents actually were alcoholics and drug addicts. And so my grandparents ended up raising me and my second brother, and I have 4 siblings total. We're all half siblings, and they raised us. And I actually spent a couple of years living in Brazil as a kid when I was 11. And so I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish, don't get as much practice as I used to in South Florida here in Tallahassee, but I do speak it and read it. And then I ended up going to school at UF. I know. I am a Gator, but I went to school at UF for journalism because I wanted to be a journalist. I knew that. And even though I had done a lot of high school theater and I almost did that, but it's funny, I didn't do it because my childhood was pretty unstable. And so the notion of a field in which your paycheck is super unstable, I was like, I don't think I can do that. So I went with journalism, which was great for like the first 10 or so years. And then it became unstable. So, that field was not really thriving. But I will say that the journalism, after I graduated from UF, I worked at the Palm Beach Post, my hometown paper, then got a job at the Tampa Bay Times. And while I was there, I got sent up here to Tallahassee to cover session. And that was in 2007. And after that session, I thought, man, I actually really like covering politics. I really never thought I would, but Charlie Crist was governor at the time. And it was his first year, I believe. Yep. And, or maybe it was his second session, but he was governor. He offered me a job after that first session. I said no. Came back for the 2008 session. He offered me a job again. And at that point, the writing was on the wall in terms of where newspapers were going. And so I took the job and I learned so much. It was really interesting being obviously on the other side. So I was press secretary, deputy press secretary, and speechwriter for the governor, and I did like that. When he decided to start running, for Senate, I was like, I do not really want to go to DC. And then actually the thing that ended up bringing me to more eventually was one of my good friends, Randy Roberts, who was a lobbyist at the time. He was like the Publix lobbyist. And, he died at like 35, just like an aneurysm or, in his shower. And I had seen him just like a week before and, chatting with them in the halls. And I was 30 at the time. And when I found out, I just thought to myself, gosh, if I had 5 years left or 5 days, what would I do with it? And the answer was I would write something and I would probably teach a fitness class or take a fitness class. But I wouldn't do what I'm doing right now. That wouldn't be it. And so I just decided to move and to leave. And so I've been at the Moore Agency now for almost 13 years.
Okay.
And I love it.
Let me pause you there, because I mean, we'll be done with the interview in like 5 minutes if I let you go. So let me pause.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I ended up here and in Tallahassee, and I've been here.
Yeah. So because I want to spend more time on Moore and in those other lanes. But let me dig a little bit on that background lane. Okay. So just to filter out, there was a lot there. Being adopted. Apparently, you and I have more in common than I thought, especially our experiences as in our youth growing up around domestic violence or drugs and alcohol and other things, and how that eventually impacts who we are, right, and how we behave. So high school, Shannon, I love to ask about this. So your high school mascot was what?
My high school mascot was the Santa Lucius Chiefs, which is interesting because it was an Indian-related mascot, and here I am living in Seminole territory. So.
Okay. All right. And then, so high school, Shannon, give me a few words to describe you in high school.
Okay. Busy.
Yeah.
Focused.
What most of your activities around what?
So I did a lot of high school theater. I was in the Honor Society, and I also was an editor for the high school newspaper.
Okay. All right. And I guess that again helps the little seed of journalism, right?
Yes. Yeah. I ironically didn't really do sports. As a child, I moved around so much that I was never really in one home. I did back and forth a lot. And so I wasn't in one place long enough to really commit to a sport. I didn't do dance, didn't take up an instrument. So those are kind of things that I didn't really do just because of the circumstances. But
all right. And now biological parents. Reconnected, ever wanted to, already have? No, yes. Where you at?
So my mom, she has been clean and sober for, oh goodness, it's now been, I'm going to do the math here, like, probably 25 years. So really proud of her. She's remarried and they live in Hickory, North Carolina. And we have a good relationship, and, I'm better off because she's in my life. And my adopted dad, I have a great relationship as well. He has also been clean and sober for 25 plus years. And he is actually a leader of like NA and AA meetings in near Bonifay, Florida. And I met my biological dad when I was 19. And it was kind of a fascinating experience because we were sitting across the table at lunch and I was just like, this explains so much. Like, we had never met before and our habits were the same. Our what we eat. I mean, it was just it was very interesting. I kind of thought that I was the way that I am because I had to be because of my circumstances, and that is to a degree true, but it's also very much that I am my dad's daughter for sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
And in Singapore, and we talk, we have a good relationship as well. So.
And that's, again, I have half siblings because I reconnected. I found my siblings, my half siblings in 2011.
Oh, wow.
And then my paternal side, eventually up to my grandfather, first time in my life. I met him when I was 2013, and my dad and I have reconnected since then too. So again, to your point, our circumstances somewhat determine how we behave and different things, but yeah, I'm very much like my father and my mother.
That's awesome.
I get my silly side from my mom, and I get my discipline maybe too far, like OCD, the most discipline from my dad. But anyway, it's good to have that in common, and I'm happy to hear that you've reconnected in all those ways. So
yeah. My dad was the class president, captained the debate team, full scholarship to Harvard, took the LSAT just to see what he would get, got 100, got a perfect score, like just crazy off the charts. And my mom was like the theater queen, right? Super funny. And so I do have both of them in me, but it's just kind of, they are polar opposites for sure.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so as we transition, right, as I told you early on, we kind of transition through different lanes of work and life. So
Yeah.
let's go to career, which
Okay.
you somewhat started on a little bit. So just to regurgitate a little. So, out of the school, working at the newspaper, doing sessions in Tallahassee, eventually got into government work with Governor Christ. And at some point transitioned because you had an epiphany to some degree after meeting Randy Roberts. So let's pick up with where you currently are today at Moore, which I know the name of the organization changed once or twice, since you've been there. But tell the audience a little more about Moore, how long you've been there, and your capacities there, and that paid staffing employee relationship.
Yeah.
Other side hustles, we'll get to those.
Okay. Yeah. So I work at Moore. We're Moore Communications Group, and now we are just Moore, Moore, not related to Mickey, but there's another Moore Bass Consulting in town, not related, but Moore, it's the pink logo. And so I am an associate managing director here, and I'm also the wellness coordinator here. And I've been here again almost 13 years. We are an integrated communications firm that is rooted in Tallahassee for 25 plus years, but we actually have offices in South Florida, Denver, New Orleans. We joke that all the fun offices, I'm not there, not New Orleans, I'm not in South Florida, but I do love Tallahassee. So, and we, have national clients, state clients. We do a lot of government, pharmaceutical, workforce education. My main clients are Florida prepaid college savings. So I get to be their spokesperson and do a lot of the partnerships and earned media. I also do work on a lot of our other post-secondary education clients. So higher education is really a passion point for me. It's definitely like in my wheelhouse of knowledge. So when I worked at the Tampa Bay Times, I was the higher education reporter. So I got to just write, my beat was like, I could go to any college or university across the state, do a story, feature news and do it. And it was so much fun. And I learned a lot. So I really get to use that education expertise here. I also do a lot of our media trainings because I have worked on both sides. So how do you give an interview? How do you prepare for an interview? What is the reporter probably going to ask you next? How do you, sort of prepare yourself for that? And then presentation trainings as well. So I love what I do. It's a great place to work. We've been, named the best place to work, I think like 14 years running. And Karen Moore, who founded this, really does treat us as, we are family. We are truly family. And our staff turnover is so low, which is very unheard of in PR. I mean, most PR agencies have a pretty high turnover rate, and we just do not have that.
Yeah, and again, being in this town for 25 plus years, watching Karen and knowing her for years, and the teams that she's had, an employer of choice. It's clearly they are an employer of choice. People want to work there and they want to stay there. I mean, I remember the Margarita Fridays, and I mean, I've seen I've seen those things.
One of our staff members has a full bar in her office, but we don't touch until after, until the appropriate time.
Of course, it's all time and place, right? But I will say, having experience working with Liz over there, and of course I know several. I mean, Terry Ard, for crying out loud. I mean, an amazing team, yourself included. So thanks for all that you do for all of our clients and the community, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Karen Moore and I are not related, but I try to say we're cousins, maybe. If it helps me get some business, why not? Right? Yeah. No, anyway, so obviously it's a full-time gig for you there. Are you pretty settled, or are you going to branch out on your own there? Are you going to run the place in another 5 or 10 years? Or what do you think?
I'm not one to just sit back and be complacent. So I'm always looking for, opportunities to advance, to learn more, to kind of flex my muscles in new ways. I think in the past year, I've definitely focused on building up our vertical of media training, presentation training, because, listen, I've sat in enough committee meetings in the legislature, right, to see that like, whoo, this person needs some help with this presentation. Or how do you get in front of a legislative committee and start to answer the tough questions? That's effectively a media interview, right? Because the media is covering it and you're either being interrogated or you're being politely questioned, but you need to know how to navigate that conversation to your benefit. So I kind of love building up how we train people to do that, giving them the tools that they need. And we've been able to work with just a number of, clients at the state and national level to really help them do that. And it's been fantastic.
Crisis management, right? I mean, there's so much of it, and crisis communication piece of that. I mean, how needed that is, right? To everything today, because of 24/7 media, social media,
Mhm.
you're always in front of the camera, whether you realize it or not. And, what was that? I went to a boot camp years ago, 2002, 2003, where they made us go through like 7 presentations in 48 hours, sometimes with 1 minute preparation, sometimes in a full room of people, sometimes nobody but a light. I mean, just to
Wow.
train you
Yes.
on crisis communications and how to be composed and what not to answer every question.
Right.
Anyway, but I think also on the nonprofit side, I think about board meetings and
Mhm.
how to be a chair of a board and how to facilitate meetings sometimes.
Yes.
That takes
We just did a training about that for a government agency, and it was just like Robert's Rules of Orders. Like there has to be an order to it, or the perception of you as an entity is like, wow, they're a hot mess, and you don't want that. You want to come across as we are polished, we are poised, we know exactly what we're doing. Mhm.
So needless to say, your job at Moore continues to grow,
Mhm.
quite busy, quite disciplined, quite committed across that. And we didn't even talk about the wellness piece, which is a whole nother internal, opportunity there that you spend a lot of time because I see it.
Yeah, it's part of kind of the culture of who we are. It becomes wellness, it becomes team building. And I think that what I love is that the leadership from the moment they hired me, they were like, "Can you start a wellness program?" I was like, "Absolutely," because they knew that was a passion point for me. And so seeing the support for that, because I think it's part of the reason why people stay. When employees know that the organization cares enough about them to actually care that they're well, right?
Mhm.
And wellness is to me holistic. It's not just what the scale says. It's not how you look. It's not even what your doctor says. It's everything. It's how you sleep, how you manage stress, how you balance your life. That's wellness. And so the fact that they do invest so much in us to do that, is part of why we know that we are valued. So it's good. Mhm.
That's right. I mean, and in the long run, as Karen knows, and Terry, and as you know, the more you put into your folks, the more they give back to you, right? And that's
Absolutely.
just,
Yeah.
it goes round and around, not to mention your insurance costs.
Well, that's right. I mean, we are an active group. We are well, and it's been, navigating during COVID obviously is a new challenge, but I see opportunity in that. So, mhm.
Great. Okay, so let's transition to another lane because we're going to get in as many as we can today. I know you juggle a lot of them, so or integrate because that's my word. Sorry.
Yes, I do
Um,
integrate.
yes. So let's talk about fitness, okay?
Huh?
Because and this is outside of more. You've got personal training. You've got your own fitness. So let's kind of combine the two about your experience there, the time and commitment from being a personal trainer and taking care of your own self in personal fitness.
Yes. So I love fitness. I'm passionate about it. And I actually owned my own fitness studio in Midtown. And then that was open for about 5 years. And then actually fostering children sort of shifted my focus away from there. But I've always still continued to teach. So I teach spinning. I teach some boot camps. And to me, it is a gift to be able to help other people feel better and to have confidence and be empowered in all that they can do, right? We get one vessel, we get one. And I believe that we should treat it as a gift. It is a gift. And so for me to be able to help people in any way to do that, I love it so much. And so I had the studio. I also have been a master trainer for a few different fitness brands. So I did several years ago travel all over the country most weekends, teaching at fitness conferences and teaching at different fitness facilities. So that was a lot of miles logged on the plane, but it was a good experience. Mhm.
So what is your favorite, when it comes to you and what you do, is
Mhm.
right to take care of yourself, obviously, 'cause
Yep.
that's your brand. I mean, when you're a trainer, you got to fill the role yourself, right? So what are your favorite things to do in fitness to take care of yourself and keep yourself in shape?
Okay, so I do love running because it's freeing. I can do it anywhere, and Tallahassee is just a fantastic place to be a runner. I love spinning because it is just such fantastic physical training. It's just awesome. And I love music and I love being able to integrate the two together. And I love kind of just, boot camp style, strength training, getting, burpees, tuck jumps, like kind of high voltage I'm definitely a hit girl. You know, I like to go, high heart rate, you know, intensity doesn't scare me. I actually really like it. So, and I've always been one where I like to push myself, right? To see what the body is capable of. And so anything that I can do that does that, I like it. You know, you're probably not going to get me in a Pilates class because I'm going to be bored. Like it doesn't really. And the thing is, I know as a person who is in the fitness sphere, like Pilates is fantastic for the body. Like I totally like see why people do it. But for me personally, I'm like, meh, you know, like, and I always tell people too, I'm like, guess what? That's okay. People say, well, what should I do? And I say, find what you love and do that thing, right? You might love tennis, go do tennis, right? And so I think it's people kind of want a one size fits all. And it's like, no, for your own fitness and wellness, you need to find what you're going to do consistently that you actually like.
Right. Which again, looking forward to more of your advice, right, on how to do these types of things. But I will say, being active, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, however, for me, no Pilates. I tried it, but I fell asleep once. I was like, I can't do it. I mean,
See,
I
like I can do hot yoga. Okay, like hot yoga because I'm like, sweating, but regular yoga, I'm like, meh.
No, not gonna do it. So do you compete? Like, do you still get out there and compete, you know, in some 5Ks and runs or other?
Yeah. So what's funny is, so you know what I've been doing lately is these DEKA fit challenges. So it's like Spartan puts them on, and there's 3 different kinds. So one is like just strength, another one is strength and a little bit of running, and another one is really strength and running together. And there's 10 stations. They're, you know, fairly intense. They're doable. It's really not unlike what I do at the gym at Chaos where I work out regularly. Right. But I just did one in Jacksonville that was, what I loved is that, so I'll always go into something and I'm like, I'm just here to, you know, I'm here to participate, but anybody that knows me is like, yeah, right, Shannon.
Right.
So I am competitive. And when it starts, I'm like, I'm in. So I did this one in Jacksonville that was, you end up doing a total of a 5K in between these stations. So you do a station. So maybe you row 500 meters, you run 500 meters. You do 20 box jumps, you run 500 meters, and you just do all that in between the 10 stations. Yeah. So I loved it. It was so intense and I loved it. And it was like the perfect blend to me of running, because I can run pretty fast when I put my mind to it, and not Mickey Moore fast, but I can run fast. And then strength. And so it was, I ended up placing like pretty close to like the elite category top 10. And I was like, well, okay, I like this. So, you know, I end up, once I'm in it, I do compete. So that's kind of what I am into lately. And I have another one coming up in October here in Tallahassee. Mm-hmm.
Well, good luck. Yeah. I quite understand when you tell people, oh, I'm just going to try it. And they look at you and they go, look.
No, you never do that.
No. You're competing. Just admit it. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's move to another lane. Needless to say, having been an entrepreneur, owning your business, but still having clients, still teaching, still doing all the, and again, for the audience, spinning class, that's a bike class.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's like Peloton. Think Peloton.
Peloton, there you go. And taking care of your own self, you know, through exercise. That's a lot of time and energy, week in, week out, every day, every month. So, but I want to get to another lane, community service, because again, through observation and a little bit of understanding who you are, I know you're engaged in the community, you know, serving your community. So share with us a few of the examples, whether it be a board, whether it be, you know, other things, causes that you care the most about, that you spend some time and energy in.
Okay. So I serve on the board of the Leon County Humane Society, and I do have 4 dogs. They're all rescues. 3 are small. The 4th one I thought was going to stay relatively small, and he's 85 pounds. So I was wrong. But I am passionate about fostering dogs and, you know, rescuing dogs. My first rescue, Sir Burpee, named for Sir Royal Burpee, who invented the Burpee. He was a British military commander. Did you know that? There you go, guys. If you're watching this, that's what you learned today. The Burpee is named after Royal Burpee. And so he invented that exercise for his troops. So when I got Sir Burpee, I had the fitness studio and I was like, he'll be our little mascot. And he acts like a British prince, by the way. If he could talk, he would have a very British accent. But he was my first rescue. And man, the love of that dog, it was the first time that I was like, I am good at being a mom. Like, even if it's just to this little dog, and to have somebody else who loves you and just, you know, also depends on your love so much. I was like, this is amazing. So I kept acquiring dogs. I foster dogs a lot too. And then that led to me fostering children, but that's another lane. But anyway, so the Humane Society is a big one for me. The other one is I'm currently on the 2021 Catalyst team for the Knight Creative Communities Institute.
Okay.
Working with Betsy Couch, Mike Pate, and our project this year is called Art of the Box. And so it's turning, if you start to drive around town, if you're in Tallahassee, and you see these like utility boxes that are now wrapped in all of this amazing art, we're basically calling on local artists to submit art. And instead of seeing this like ugly utility box, it becomes a canvas for local art. So it's just fun. And we've actually gotten the city to establish an ongoing program. So they will continue to wrap these boxes, moving into the future. So being able to do that, in a way that helps our community is a big one for me.
Nice. Yeah.
Another big one is, fostering and, a big passion of mine is the child welfare system and children who are vulnerable and in need. Mm-hmm.
And education, again, has always been an interest of yours too. Yeah. So the art of the box, I think that's great because, who likes to look at those power boxes? They're just obnoxious. So they look much better now with the art. Leon County Humane Society, thumbs up, right? We have dogs, love dogs, and y'all do great work there. So thank you for that as well. And I know at Moore, I'm sure they encourage their team members to give back and serve in the community.
Yes,
right?
that's right. Yeah, we actually have a program called More Impact. And so we do a different thing every year. And so one of the things that we did last year during COVID was to partner with, the Big Bend Harvest to basically get meals to children who are not in school. I mean, these are the kinds of things that because I understand having been a foster parent before I adopted my boys, these children live on the edge every day and school is a safe place for them. And when they're not in school, they are at risk. And so it literally has kept me up at night sometimes because it worries me. But, that's one of the things that I also love about Moore is that we do these projects annually and, we do things that really make an impact on the community. And it's if you're not making your community and the world a better place, why are you here? I mean, that really is kind of probably the mantra that I live by, leave the world better off than when you came into it in your own way, right? We can't fix everything, but we can do something to make the world better where we are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, agreed. And, trying to get my clients even, volunteer incentive programs. I'll just use the VIP programs, putting those in your handbook and becoming an employer of choice, I believe, is part of that, encouraging and allowing your people to serve the community. And if that means they need to go to a board meeting during the workday, let them do it because they're there with the name tag on, they're representing your business, and it's good for them to become part of the community. And at the end of the day, it comes back to you as an employer. It does. So
and Moore does that. They give us a certain amount of hours to contribute toward a cause or even a business that we want to help with public relations or, PR. I mean, I've done a lot with TC Bakery, which is the only bakery on the South Side. If y'all have not had her cakes, I can't even say. It's she came out of my grandma's kitchen. It's amazing. But, she needed, we helped with the logo and branding. And, that was something that I was able to do as a courtesy, and a few other team members also use their hours to do that. So, it's and we feel good about it. We love being able to help her. So,
and that's what it takes. So, okay, then I'm going to transition to, because you've hinted, and I certainly wanted to get to it today, the family commitment lane, right? So you're a mom, right? You've adopted a couple boys, right?
Two.
So tell me and tell us, what led to that. Tell us what you can share about the boys. Obviously there's privacy there, but tell us about your family lane and being a mom.
Yeah, so I started fostering in 2017, and I made the decision. I actually came here. When I came here, I had actually recently divorced, and I just came to a point where, if not for my grandparents, I probably would have ended up in the foster care system. I know I would have. And so and my grandfather had been a guardian ad litem in Palm Beach County. He was very active in that whole space. And so when I started to really, again, I got Sir Burpee and I was like, man, this mom thing's amazing. What if I was mom to a human? It can't be that much harder than a dog. No, I'm kidding. But you cannot, you can't put a child in a crate, guys. If you're
no, you can't. No.
But so I, started to kind of get that inkling and that desire. And so I went through the classes, and it's funny because when you start out, you're like, oh, I know exactly how this path is going to go. I'm going to foster a 0 to 5 year old, probably a baby. I'll adopt the baby, one child, End of story, and God's like, oh no, sister, I have a different plan for you. So I got my first foster daughter, Ari, aka Princess Pigtails. She was about 3.5, and fell in love with her. And then she was sent back to a grandparent 3 days before Christmas, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. And then I got Jay Sean, little man, who is like one of the best kids in the whole wide world. I mean, man, he is going to be a preacher or a comedian or both. He's just amazing. And so had him for a few months as well. And then he also went to a grandma's saved the world. My grandma saved me. So kudos to them. But I ended up, actually, I really had taken a step back from kind of full-time fostering because I had a lot of hurt saying goodbye to a child. I equate it to like a child's been kidnapped, in that they're out there, but you no longer have control over their safety and their well-being, right? And you love them, and they're just poof, they're just gone. And so it's hard. Is it worth it? Yes, it is, but it's very hard. And so I had just sort of taken a break, and I was just doing respite care. And so I got a call. There's these 2 boys. Their foster mom is actually from Nigeria. She's going out of the country for the week. Can you take them? I was like, sure. So they roll up, and, we had a fantastic week. And I was like, these boys are amazing. Like, what's their story? And so I asked my friend Callan, who works in local welfare here, and she looked at the case and she was like, I mean, they're actually close to being available for adoption. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, you should reach out to the caseworker. And so I did. And I mean, that was May of 2019. And they moved in August of 2019. We started a new school year, and the official adoption was November 11th of 2019. I'm sorry, November 19th of 2019. 2019. And then, so here we are. They're 8 and 11 now, 2nd and 5th grade. Very much kind of opposite personalities, but they're very close to each other. And yeah, they're great. So, and life is always a zoo now. It's always a zoo.
And again, being a single parent, right? So you go from, just being a parent to dogs, which is not easy. Okay.
No, but it's not the same thing.
But it is the same thing. So, I mean, the commitment of, taking them to school, picking them up, and whatever activities they want to do. So that's got to be just a challenge on its own.
It is challenging. I mean, it's, here's what I am good at. And I think it's what I'm built for. And I also know that my childhood experience specifically equips me for them, right? They have a similar situation of, addiction among parents.
Right.
They didn't have grandparents to step in, and, my oldest, having to take care of the siblings because the parents weren't doing that. And that was my role. I was the oldest sibling. And so I think it helps me to understand, where they come from. And I can say, guys, I had a rough childhood too, but what I did do is I decided to start making different choices, right? Kids that come from hard places, there's like a fork in the road. There is, I mean, to a degree. And it's like, you have to decide, am I going to go that way or am I going to go that way? And I remember being 6 years old, and I was watching my mom in her bedroom, and she was just, strung out and, crying because she couldn't pay the bills. And at 6 years old, I looked at her and I thought, I'm never going to be like that.
Yep.
Never.
Yeah.
And it was a decision, and that focused my lane, right, for the rest of my life. And so I do think I'm able to help them with that. And I also am really good at compartmentalizing, right, and multitasking. And I'm very efficient. We joke it more like Shannon can do in 35 hours what most people do in 40. Like, so I am good at getting things done. And I think that has helped me. And I've always been good at juggling. And even as a non-single parent, you're juggling, right? And so it's just, it's not always easy, for sure. I fail a lot. Right. I learn a lot. But it's been, they are worth it. And they are a major pain in the butt a lot, but they also are fantastic. Yeah.
There's a lot to unwrap there. But I will say, I mean, a couple of things, again, my mom was raised primarily by my mom. I mean, most of my life as a single parent. Yeah. Through her own challenges, though, the one word we always talk about is survival, right? And in her own words, she would say, I'm a survivor. She just got tired of doing it every day. And that's kind of the thing that drove me, that fork in the road piece was, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to have to be in survival mode the rest of my life, every day, all day. And that's what motivates me to keep moving forward and do certain things or behave certain ways, right? So I have a lot of respect for my friends, acquaintances, et cetera, who are single parents, whether that be a mom or a dad, because both can be very challenging.
I will say one thing about this community and, just the network of friends that you develop is that, I do have a lot of support, people that will say like, can I take the boys for an afternoon? How about they come over, tonight so you can have a night on your own? And so, so that does help too.
We rarely do it on our own, right?
We really don't. I will say I don't do it on my own, because there's always people helping, teachers, friends, all that.
So, okay, before I get to the big question of, hey, what is your suggestions, advice on running more of life and all that, I wanted to give one more lane to other side hustles, because I think on LinkedIn I saw, you're involved in, what is it, Arbonne or a couple other, so just quickly, what are a couple of other little side lane things that you're doing that occupy some time?
Okay. Yep. So I am an ambassador for RIKA, which is a women's shoe company. So they do cross-training shoes, running shoes. And I love that company. And so I get to do that. I started doing that when I was a conference presenter, and still do that and love it. And I get so many shoes that they want me to try, and like I end up kind of, I give those to Goodwill and stuff because I want to like give back, because I don't use them. I don't use them until they're kind of run out. But then my other big one is Arbonne. So that's a health and wellness company. And I'm a regional vice president with Arbonne. And, my gratitude for that is that somebody brought it to me as a business opportunity. And it was right before I started fostering. And I was basically like, are you crazy? I don't have time. Like, what are you talking about? I have all these things. I had the studio, my full-time job. I was traveling. I was like, what? And so, but they told me about the skincare, and I had really bad acne at the time. And I was on Accutane, and I was like, I don't like being on it. And she was like, you can get a full refund if you don't like it. And I was like, okay, sign me up. And that was really the beginning of it. And I fell in love with the stuff. And I ended up doing their nutrition program about 5 months in, partly because I was super cynical about it. Because if you're in fitness, or even if you're in running, you're like, I've been told to try every hydration drink, right? You're like, people pitch you all the time. And I thought it's just going to be like all the other ones. So I didn't tell anybody that I was doing it, because I didn't want to answer for it if I hated it. And I actually was like, man, it became the first time I developed a healthy relationship with food. In being totally candid, I struggled as in high school and college with anorexia a little bit. I think that was a control issue and like a homesick issue, like for the first semester, but it scared the crap out of me. But it just was not a good relationship. Right. And then meanwhile, I'm Italian. So, like food is how we love each other. Right. And so I did the program, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like I could help so many people with this. Right. Because as a fitness instructor, we get them for 1 hour. But then they have 23 other hours to either make really good choices or really bad ones. And the choices are all about nutrition. So I thought, oh man, if I could help with that, wow. And so I started helping people with it. And then I thought, okay, if I am already telling people to do this and helping them, and I could get a thank you check for it, right? That is just extra, it's the extra, right? Why not do that for a child that's about to come into my home as a foster child? And we all know that foster kids, and really all kids, are not inexpensive. And especially foster kids, they have extra needs, counseling, different things that they need. And so I started doing that, and it's been a huge blessing. For me, everybody's path is different, but there is no other economic model that I see where it's like basically almost nothing to start and enter. And you get to like give yourself a raise every month if you just decide to work that hard. It's like, it's just the activity that you do. And for me, it has allowed me as a single parent to have a second income stream coming in, right? So I'm essentially a 2-income household, which allows me to have 2 boys and 4 dogs, right? And to really do and give back to the things that make my heart happy. So, yeah.
There's a lot there. One piece I want to talk about though, real quick, is the food. Because to your point,
so much.
I don't think a lot of people want to put in the time and thought behind, okay, I exercise 1 hour, but then I'm going to go and eat all this other stuff for the next 23. Why am I not in better shape? Why aren't I losing weight? Why aren't I getting toned? Well, again, this is a machine, and you got to put gas in it. You got to clean the filter. You got to do all of it like you would your car, right? You can't.
And I think, yes. And I think there's so much confusion out there about like what's right, what's not. But, we know that like our food supply just really skews toward just unhealthy choices, right? The easier choices and and are the unhealthy ones. And, this is like a whole other podcast of like the
Yeah,
food
yeah.
deserts, in low income communities. I mean, like, good luck finding a fresh piece of fruit, right, in an inner
Right.
city like housing complex. I mean, you're just not going to find it. And so, that to me, but it isn't. And what I know too is that, I'm not here to tell you that eating well is going to keep you from getting COVID or frankly any virus or the flu, but we
Right.
should always be trying to make ourselves as well equipped as possible for whatever comes our way. So I had colon cancer when I was 30.
Okay.
And it was right before I moved here. I had surgery and I was like, why do I have, I'm 30, like, why do I have cancer? And so then I read the book called The China Study. And it basically was like, well, people that are, predisposed to certain cancers, certain foods turn them on and turn them off. And so countries where they have high consumption of dairy, processed meats, right? And so guess what? Italian over here, salami sandwich every day for lunch, come home, have some more salami. Grandma makes a sausage eggplant, like, right? I mean, it's like covered in cheese. And so I was like, oh, that's why. So I became very much a plant-based, eater who, I'm very particular about how I feed myself, how I take care of my gut, which affects immunity and even mental, mood and everything. And so for me, like, I have so much going on in my life, and maybe we're kind of segueing into the advice, but it's like,
Yeah.
the more you have going on in your life, the more you have to take care of yourself. And the minute you stop taking care of yourself, you can't take care of the other stuff, guys. Like, you just
Right.
can't, because you'll run out, to your point, you'll run out of gas.
Yeah.
You'll run yourself
Yeah.
down.
And again, multitasking too, scientifically, that, the brain and we can't actually multitask.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right, scientifically, but I get it. We can do better when we're healthy inside and out, and that's not just physical activity, it's the
Oh,
machine. So
yeah.
let me then transition, because we're hinting there.
Yeah.
As always, right? The main point of this podcast is to allow you, our guest, to share some advice for anybody else to try, knowing there's no perfect formula and there's a lot of success and failure, but what advice you would have on helping them integrate all these lanes of work and life that they may be trying to integrate. So what say you, Shannon? What are your pieces of wisdom, please?
Yeah. So I think that I do believe that when the thing, not to be Marie Kondo or whatever, but when the thing brings us joy, it doesn't feel like work. So people often ask me, like, you're doing so many things, like, doesn't that stress you out? Doesn't it, make you tired? And it's like, well, yes, I do get tired. But if I'm, going to the Humane Society and giving baths to 4 new puppies that just came in that are covered in fleas and ticks or whatever, right? But I also just help them find homes, right? That gives me joy, right? My boys can be exhausting, right? Fostering is hard. Adopting is hard, especially when they're older and they have a lot of baggage and memories and traumas. But it also gives me joy because I know that I'm giving them an opportunity that they would not have had, right? My job is work, my day job at more, but I love it, right? Arbonne is work, but I love being able to help people, and then to help other people who want to do it as a business to help themselves and their families, right? And so my advice is, find the things that don't feel like work, right? And embrace them, and say no to the things that I think being able to say no to the things that are not going to bring you joy, so that you can say yes to the things that do. I mean, I get asked to do a lot of different things, and I do. I mean, it probably seems like I don't say no, but I do say no to a lot of things, because it's just like, I don't have the capacity or the passion to do that. I actually just joined the board of Young Life Tallahassee here in town. And that is a passion for me. It's like, my son's about to be in middle school, right? And middle school is a very precarious time for kids. They can often go, one of 2 ways. And so to support an organization that gives middle schoolers and high schoolers and college kids a place to come together that is safe and is really teaching them to be, godly leaders in the world, that is a passion point for me. And so is it another thing? Yes. But when you care about it, you will find the time to do it. So I think that's one thing. And then to kind of reiterate what we said, when you're doing all these things, you can't take care of all the things that you love if you are not taking care of yourself. And I think especially as moms, we tend to want to put everybody else and everything else first. And if there's enough time for us, then okay. Like if I have enough time to make a good meal for myself, fine. But first I got to feed the kids. Well, guess what? Like you can't run that way. It's eventually gonna give out. You're gonna get sick. You're gonna be in a bad mood. It's gonna affect how you care for them. So I think understanding that taking care of yourself, it does not have to be, nor should it feel selfish, because if you're doing it to have more capacity for the people that rely on you, then I do think that it's important to put that on a front burner. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here to listen and take it all in and agree because I love the first part, which is find the passion behind it, right? That you love to do, because then it doesn't feel like work, and you end up finding the time. But once you identify them, you got to be healthy yourself, because
that's right.
How can you be at your optimal performance to do all of those things? You really got to take care of yourselves. And albeit I don't have the experience as a mom, of course, right? But my wife, I see the same thing, right? She's got to take her time to take care of herself and do those things. That way she can be the best possible for the boys or whatever other things that she's doing.
That's right. Yeah. And I think, time is, we all have the same 1,440 hours a week. Right? We do. It's just how we choose to spend them. Like, I don't really watch a lot of TV, right? Yeah. I read every night before bed because, again, it makes me better, right? It makes my brain better. So I do that. I put in my hour of, workout every morning. I do that. So there are some things to me that are like non-negotiables. And, if I can spend an hour building my Arbonne business, which then brings in more to our family, which then helps my boys, yeah, I'm doing that instead of watching the latest episode of like who knows what, because the latest episode of who knows what does not help my family, nor does it help the causes that I am, passionate about. So it's also a matter of priority. And, sure. People say, they'll say to me, like, I can't afford to eat healthy. And it's like, well, really? Because I could probably look at your budget and I could probably help you, right? It is priorities, and not everyone has the same budget, but I think it's also a matter of, better than what? There's always a choice that's better than. You might have a D food choice and a C food choice, but I think it's helping to identify the better choice. So
yeah, and as in business and as in life, it does come down to behaviors, right?
It is.
Ultimately, that you choose to behave in certain ways, and you got to accept the consequences, good, bad, or not, right?
That's right.
Your behaviors. But you write down 24 hours. How many of those hours become productive hours versus non-productive hours? And again,
if most people logged how often they scroll on their phone, you can easily lose, 20 minutes at a time in 3 increments. Guess what? That's an hour that you could be working out, making healthy food for the week, right? I mean, it's like, so I kind of like, that's kind of the way my brain works, is like, well, I have an hour, like, what could I do with it that's actually, right, productive? Now, not to say, I also know that, like, Shannon also needs her downtime, right? And so she needs the time to, like, whether it's taking a walk or going on a run or reading a book, like she needs to do the things that kind of give her that space.
That's right.
But I've never been one to just like sit around. I mean, you can probably ask my grandma. She's like, I think you just came out of the womb running, like you were just like ready to go. So it's definitely how I'm wired. But I think everyone, no matter how they're wired, to your point, can improve their daily habits. There's a book I recommend, Atomic Habits. It's so good if you've not read it. And it's such a readable book. And it really is a very applicable way to just change habits, even one at a time for daily improvement, because I do believe that we can learn new things and, improve how we live our lives.
Awesome. Well, you've shared a lot of good things. So thank you. And again, one Italian to another, which, when I found my grandfather, his name was Dominic Fanelli.
Oh, so, that's like a mafia name. That's fantastic.
From Queens. So my name could have been Mickey Fanelli, which.
Yes. Oh, that's a boxer name.
Yeah. Put me in the movies or something. I don't know, but, or in jail with the mob. I don't know, but.
My grandpa's name was Rocco. Like it was Francis Rocco. And he actually looked in his heyday like Tony Soprano. And he ran a craps game out of the back of a hearse that he borrowed from the Catholic Church in Albany, New York. I'm like, if that's not mafia, I don't know what it is.
But one of my boys, his name is Rocco, right? So
yes, yeah.
Rocco Fanelli Moore is his name. So
that's awesome.
We got to keep it going. Shannon, again, thank you for the time today. And to our audience, again, look for this episode soon on our website, Run.Life.Today.org. It's been a joy. I hope to see you again soon, Shannon, and take care and good luck in your competition in October.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.